Well, welcome back to For the Southside. And to begin today, I'd like to take you back a few years ago when my son was in the 6th grade, my daughter was in the 8th grade. These were the early years of Gwinnett Church. And my father-in-law asked my son, Cole, how's Gwinnett Church going? He said, Granddad, it's going great. Mom serves in guest services. Jesse serves in Upstreet. I serve in Wambaland. And Dad does nothing, right? I mean, I just get up here, say a few words, and sit down. How hard is that? And so I wanted to tell Cole, hey, I actually do have a role around here. It's called lead pastor, much like your amazing lead pastors at your Southside campuses. This title denotes a 2-word job description, if you will, the pastor part, but there's also the leader part. And the reason I tell you that is today I want to lean into the leadership part, because if you're new to a Southside online experience, you might listen to what we're going to talk about today, and you might say, this actually sounds more like a leadership talk than a sermon, and you would be correct. Good news is the sermons will continue next Sunday, and today's talk, even though it's a leadership talk, is actually based on a verse in the Bible, so there's some good news. But I wanted to talk to you about this today as it relates specifically to For the Southside. And here's why. If you were with us last week for part 1 of this series, you heard me talk about the fact that in a couple of months, you have a significant milestone that you're about to reach, and that is that you will celebrate your 15th year as a church. Now, this is remarkable. First of all, a lot of organizations don't even make it to 15. Secondly, you've not just made it to 15, you have thrived. As I said last week, I can remember when Southside Church was just an idea, but now look at you. You've got Southside Peachtree City, Southside Noonan, Southside Henry County, Southside Online Campus, and who knows where God is going to take you in the future. But as we said last week, any organization, any church, any business that has experienced the success that you have had, there's a danger, especially when you get 15 years in. And the danger is what we said last week is vision drift. That you could potentially drift off vision and mission. And anytime an organization says, oh, that'll never happen to us, they take a gigantic step forward in making that possible reality come true. So that's why we're kind of calling a time out before you hit the 15-year mark and make sure that vision drift doesn't happen to you, because there's far so much at stake that we can't allow vision drift to happen. And as someone who's been cheering you on for well over 15 years, I'm so honored to be here to help prepare the way as you're about to hit your 15-year mark. Now, any organization like yourself that has gone for 15 years, you've got extraordinary memories. You've got some really rich memories. I have rich memories of cheering you on. And while that's great, the leadership principle and the leadership danger I want to talk about for a few minutes today actually relates to those memories. And here's what I mean by that. This is true for any organization. But when your memories exceed your dreams, the end is near. When your memories exceed your dreams, the end is near. When we keep talking about the good old days, and there's nothing wrong with having good old days, that's great. In fact, those good old days can be the foundation from which we grow. But when we look at that and we say, well, that's the way it's always been done and it's always going to be done that way, then your memories begin to exceed your dreams. And when that happens, when there is no vision, the people, the organization, the church will perish. So the challenge for you, Southside Church, is you've got an extraordinary amount of memories, but you can't let your memories exceed your dreams. Now, the good news is while this is a danger, there's an opposite principle that I'm going to encourage us to move into as you hit the 15-year mark. And that one is this: when your dreams exceed your memories, you pioneer. That when you have great memories, that's great, but when you say, no, that's great, that's awesome, but our dreams, we still got a big dream. We still have a big vision. We still have more people to reach. We still have more people to serve. When your dreams exceed your memories, you don't get stuck in, this is the way we've always done it. No, you pioneer. And so as you look at the next 15 years, as I said last week, our hope, our prayer as we cheer you on at Gwinnett Church is that the first 15 years will not be known as your best years. They will be known as your foundational years, and the next 15 years, my hope is that the next 15 years would possibly be your best years. But to get there, we're going to have to do this. Because when your memories exceed your dreams, the end is near. But when your dreams exceed your memories, you pioneer. And that's really the story of Southside Church. I mean, you were one of the first early adopters of video church. And now you have 3 locations. You just added a 4th location with your online campus. So part of your story and part of your DNA is that your dreams exceed your memories, so you pioneer. And so for those of you that want to go there, I want to invite you into the process of how this looks, as you can make sure that the next 15 years, if you will, is actually better than the first 15. Now, to get there, we have to understand this when it comes to how God has blessed Southside Church. I mean, you can look at these first 15 years and go, wow, God has blessed Southside Church with success. But let me be really, really clear. God has not blessed Southside Church with success, all right? This isn't true. Let me show you what God has blessed Southside Church with. God has blessed Southside Church with potential. An extraordinary amount of potential. The reason I say that God hasn't blessed you with success, obviously, it's been an incredibly successful journey. But when I say that God hasn't blessed you with success, what I mean by that is there's a lot more people for you to reach in your community and where you are than you have currently reached. But the potential of what these first 15 years have created for you, that's what God has blessed you with. So what I want to do to help show and illustrate this and to make sure that your dreams continue to exceed your memories so you pioneer, I want to show you an illustration that I showed our church staff in the very early days of Gwinnett Church. And what I wanted this illustration to do is to stick in their minds as a reminder of who we are trying to reach and the challenge of trying to reach people in our community that are far from God. Obviously, we want to inspire people to follow Jesus. Obviously, we want to create a church that unchurched people love. But to do that and to move toward a better 15 years than the first 15 that you've had, I want to show you an illustration that's not just true for Gwinnett Church, it's true for Southside Church as well. And it's this illustration here. I call this the guy on the couch. And this man here doesn't represent just men. He represents families and students and women and everybody in the community that would classify themselves as someone who doesn't go to church, right? And there's a gap. And this person, are representing people who are unchurched. They're not necessarily protesting the church. They just are ambivalent to church. They have their back to the church. For some reason, somewhere along the line, the church just isn't a category for them, or maybe they got burned by the church, or maybe they're just more familiar with what the church is against, and they think that maybe the church is against them. So when it comes to attending church, when it comes to being a part of Southside Church, it's just not on their radar. It's just not a category. In fact, let me give you an example from the business world that I think might illustrate this a little better. As some of you know, before I started doing this, I was in marketing at Chick-fil-A. And one of the things that was difficult in the early days of Chick-fil-A rolling out breakfast is that the breakfast day part is extraordinarily difficult to break into. And here's why, and you'll probably relate to this, that we probably eat different things for lunch and we probably eat different things for dinner. But breakfast is this habitual meal that we pretty much eat the same thing for breakfast every day. So when we tried to introduce a chicken biscuit into the process, into the breakfast consideration of many people, they had their back to us because they're like, chicken for breakfast? I've never even thought about that, right? They had their backs toward the idea of chicken for breakfast. And for those of you that grew up in Atlanta, you're like, how could that possibly be, right? Because chicken for breakfast is a spiritual, religious experience, right? But the reality is they had their back toward that category. Well, for many people, what we had to do is we had to just actually try to invite them to turn around and consider a chicken biscuit for breakfast. Well, in many respects, this is what we're trying to do at Southside Church. In many respects, this is what we're trying to do at Gwinnett Church. All we're trying to do is to get them to just turn around and possibly consider the message of the church, to possibly just give us a few moments where they can listen, to possibly create opportunities for us to connect and have a conversation with them. But like you, I've seen this done horribly wrong. I've gone to college football games where there's a guy in a bullhorn yelling at everybody, telling them that they're going to go to hell. I've very rarely seen that be effective for the gospel. Instead, when we love people, when we serve people, when we show them that we're for them, what happens is we allow them to just turn around and engage with us, the people of Jesus. So to do this, for the next 15 years, you're already doing this, but to continue to make sure that God can do great things through you, and through the Southside campuses, here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. Here's what Chris Patton and your lead pastors are asking you to do. We're simply, as a church, as a collection of churches, we wanna say yes to those who've said no. We wanna create a church, a community of people whose hearts leap towards saying yes to those who've said no. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean by that. Specifically, we wanna say yes to those who said no to the church, in your case, Southside Church, in my case, Gwinnett Church. We wanna say yes to those who've said no to what we believe, and we wanna say yes to those who said no to Jesus. Because something powerful happens, Southside Church, when people who've said no to the church realize the church is still saying yes to them. And if we're going to be the church that Jesus is calling us to be in these challenging days, then we must be a collection of people. We must be a community of Jesus followers who are saying yes to those who said no to us, yes to those who said no to what we believe, and yes to those who said no to Jesus, because that's what Jesus said to us. And this is why last week when we began the For the Southside series, we said when it comes to the brand, if you will, of the local church, this is the heartbreak. This is the devastating news, but then this is also the hopeful news. That when it comes to church, for far too long, the church has been known for what we're against. I mean, come on, how did we get there? We talked about that last week. But for us, we want to be known for who and what we're for, and we are for the Southside. And what we want to do is create opportunities so that the guy, the lady, the student, the family, the business person that's on that couch, if you will, they turn around and they begin to realize that Southside Church is for them. And if Southside Church is for them, maybe, just maybe, that means that God is for them. And as we said last week, it's impossible for anyone to grow when they believe that God is against them. But when they believe that God is for them, the possibility of growth happens. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we do this? How do you sign up for this? And what does it mean to be for the Southside? Well, there's a 3-part strategy that I want to walk you through very, very quickly. And I have one action item for you to do today, and you can do it right after we're done, all right? That simple. There's 3 parts to this strategy to get the person, the lady, the person, the family on the couch to turn around and to say yes to them. Maybe they've said no to the church. Maybe they said no to what we believe. Maybe they said no to Jesus. Here's the 3-part strategy. The first is we want to create common ground. We want to create common ground. That's why this For the Southside language is so important, because, hey, we may not believe, the people in your community may not believe what you believe about Jesus, but what I think they might believe is that they want the schools to be great and the businesses to thrive and the place and the community to be a great place to live. We create common ground. And the For the Southside language is an opportunity for people who don't go to any of your locations to say, you know what? We have more in common with you than you might think. That's what For the Southside is about. We create common ground. The second thing that we do is we create conversations. Rather than get a bullhorn out and yell at people, we begin to have conversations. We begin to wear For the Southside t-shirts into the ballparks, into the restaurants, into the neighborhoods, into the community. And when people go, hey, what is that For the Southside? I see that all over the place. What does that mean? Here's what you're able to say. For the Southside is from our church. And the reason it says For the Southside, and the reason it's connected to a church, is that we believe that far too long the church has been known for what it's against. But for us, we want to be known for who and what we're for, because we believe God is for you. And these t-shirts and these incredible tools that Southside Church gives you, basically what they are, they're not necessarily swag, they're conversation starters. And when you create common ground and when you create connections or conversations, then you create connections. You connect with people. And here's why this is important. For those of you that are on social media, let's say you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram, did you know that you can actually reach more people than Southside Church can who are not a part of Southside Church? Because there are people, I would imagine, in your network of influence that don't believe in Jesus or don't attend Southside Church. And yet, when you talk about being for the Southside, when you post a picture of a For the Southside shirt, when you talk about what you're doing in your community, you're able to reach people with a message that, go back to the couch picture, turns around to you and go, wow, I didn't, is that a church? I didn't know you did that. For the Southside, can you explain that to me some more? And in that, when you wear a shirt, when you post on social media, when you go out and serve in the community, when you do what you do on Sundays, when we're eventually back to get back together to physical gatherings, and what you do online, all of it is doing this three-part strategy to create common ground, create conversations, and create connections. Now, here's the incredible news. Your team at Southside Church has made this infinitely easy. So here's today's action item. I don't want anyone to leave today's online gathering and go, what were we supposed to do with this? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go, not right now, in just a few minutes, I want you to go to forthesouthside.com. I'm going to show it. We'll put it on the screen. forthesouthside.com. When you do that, you're going to see some incredible opportunities. You can download a checklist. This checklist will allow you to give you some practical steps and some practical ways that you begin to spread the message of For the Southside. You're going to see some amazing stories, some incredible videos, and you're going to see some opportunities that you can wear the For the Southside shirts. But all of this is designed specifically. This isn't because we don't think you have anything else to do or we feel like you need a t-shirt or whatever. All of this is really designed to create conversations, create connection, and create common ground. So go to forthesouthside.com, download the checklist, and begin to ask yourself, what can you do in your circle of influence to let your community know that you are for the Southside? Now, the cool thing is, all of this, it's really a part of what the early church did. In fact, in the early part of the amazing launch of the church, the revolutionary thought came to the church leaders that, hey, I think the message of Jesus is bigger than just the Jewish people. And as they began to understand that, as they began to think this is a worldwide movement, as the Gentiles were coming in to profess faith in Jesus, they decided this is what we're going to do. And this is a foundational verse for Southside Church, for Gwinnett Church, and North Point Ministries. This is the verse. This is what our early forefathers of the faith decided. They decided in Acts chapter 15, it is their judgment, our judgment, it is my judgment, as they began to look about what they're going to do and who they're going to reach. It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. That is, the early church began to decide, hey, who do we want to be for? Can we just be for the Jewish people, or is this a worldwide movement? Could we maybe use this language or image? Could it possibly be for the people that we've long considered have their backs to God, the Gentile people? And as they're turning to God, could we make it less difficult? Could we make it easier? And this was how they led the early church. Acts chapter 15, again, verse 19, it is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. What does For the Southside mean? What is it all about? It's Acts chapter 15, verses 19. It's John 3:16 and John 3:17. And when we understand this, we understand what's at stake. That while God has blessed you with an amazing journey in these last 15 years, what God has not blessed you with is success. What God has blessed you with is potential, because there's a lot more people to reach. That's why the next 15 years are so exciting and so important. But think of it this way. I asked this question in the early days of Gwinnett Church, and I'll ask it to you. If our church went out of business, if Southside Church went out of business, would the community even notice? See, the reality in the world today, there are churches that close down every week, and the community around the church has no idea the church has closed. I'm sorry. I thought we were supposed to be the light of the world. I'm sorry. I thought we were supposed to be the salt of the earth. I'm sorry. I thought that when the church opens up, we should have such a massive influence that if we ever decided to close the doors, the community should rise up and go, no. Southside Church can't close down. If Southside Church closes down, our community will suffer immensely. And here's what I know about you, because this is your story. For 15 years, you've wanted to create a church that adds value to the community, that loves people, that serves them well, and ultimately points them to the love and the grace and the person of Jesus. So Southside, oh my goodness, you've got some incredible memories. Love it. However, when your memories exceed your dreams, the end is near. But would you be willing to sign up for another 15 years? For those of you that are not currently giving, would you do and sign up for online giving today? For those of you that aren't currently serving at Southside Church, could you do that? Would you be willing to do that? To say, hey, when you relaunch and reopen the physical gatherings, I'm there. I'll serve. I'll do it. Because when you do, when you have a growing group of people that are willing to do that, here's in essence what you're doing. You're saying, hey, our dreams, they're going to exceed our memories. We got great memories. But when your dreams exceed your memories, you pioneer. So Southside, on behalf of all of us at Gwinnett Church and on behalf of all of us at North Point Ministries, hey, congratulations. What a phenomenal first 15 years. But this isn't the end. This is the foundation. And when you sign up for another 15 years, you know what you can call it? You can call it For the Southside. And as you wear the shirts and as you serve and as you share stories, in essence, what you're wanting to do is this. You're wanting to make it easy for people to turn to Jesus. You're wanting to say yes to those who said no to the church, no to what we believe, and no to Jesus. Because as I said earlier, something powerful happens when people who've said no to the church realize and experience the church is still saying yes to them, because Jesus continues to say yes to them. That's who you are. That's your story. Let's sign up for another 15 years of it. Father, thank you. Thanks for loving us. Thanks for being for us when we said no to you. And God, I pray for those that are watching today. Maybe they're watching for the first time. Maybe they've attended Southside for a little bit, but they're wondering, should they take a step forward? I pray that they would. I pray that you would continue to bless this church financially, continue to bless them with the human resources they need when we eventually reopen for our physical gatherings. Thank you for the 4 locations that they have right now at Peachtree City, Noonan, Henry County, and the online gathering. Thank you for Chris and the team. But ultimately, God, may these first 15 years, may they serve as a launching pad, as a foundational season for even greater things. And may we never, ever recover from the fact that you've said yes to us. And may that grace flow not just to us, but through us to our neighbors, our coworkers, people we go to school with, and the people we do life with. Thank you for this amazing church. And thank you for what you're going to do in the next 15 years. And we pray all of this in Jesus' name.